They left her at 0340 hours. I heard the boots in the corridor, a hard, fast rhythm, men who had already decided and were only walking out the rest of the decision. Sergeant Oral, two of his fire team, then the clang of the emergency airlock cycling, the hiss of equalization, and nothing. Just the station's dying hum and the amber fault lights pulsing in the ceiling above Medbay 4. I did not move from the doorway. She was on the diagnostic platform in the center of the room. Queen Varith of the Sovereign Compact, third in the Amber Succession, commander of the Outer Reach fleets. She was also 41 hours out of surgery for a fractured sternum, 2 cracked orbital bones, and a pulmonary contusion that the station's med system had only partially addressed before the power cascade took out the main surgical array. Armor lay in pieces on the rack beside the platform. The suit's core housing was cracked along the ventral seam, a hairline fault from the same impact that had broken her ribs. And the thermal regulation layer had been running on its emergency battery for the last 6 hours. She was awake. She had been awake since they started leaving. Her eyes, amber gold, with that deep inner warmth that her species carried even in the worst circumstances, found me in the doorway. She didn't ask where they had gone. She already knew. "You're still here," she said. Her voice was even. Panic in it, no appeal. Just the plain fact spoken aloud, the way someone confirms coordinates. "Yes, ma'am. Contract covers protection in transit." Transit ended when the station was declared non-viable. She said this carefully, like she was offering me something. An exit, a clean reason to go. "My contract," I said, "is a piece of paper. You're a person." She looked at me for a moment. Something shifted behind her eyes. Not relief, not yet. More like recalibration. She had been in rooms full of obligations. She learned to read what those obligations actually weighed when tested. She was reading me now. "The Varric fleet will reach this station in approximately 4 hours," she said. "They are not coming to negotiate. I know. There is 1 emergency transit pod remaining on this level. It holds 2. The atmospheric reserve is calculated for 1 if you initiate low respiration protocol. I know that too. Then you understand the arithmetic." I stepped fully into the room and let the door seal behind me. "The arithmetic changes if we give your suit's core a power source." She was quick for a beat. "Then, the ventral housing is cracked. Any power feed risks thermal cascade. If you route it through the secondary conduit and keep the draw below 40%, the crack doesn't matter." I was already crossing to the rack. "I've been looking at it for 2 hours. The secondary conduit runs clean. It was never stressed in the impact. The fault is in the primary only." She watched me lift the chest plate. I could feel her weighing it. The technical claim, the risk, whether I was telling her what she wanted to hear or what was true. "You're a contracted security guard," she said. Not dismissively. More like she was noting something she hadn't known before. "Third-year apprentice systems tech before I took the security contract. The pay was better." I set the chest plate on the bench and began tracing the conduit with my fingertip. "There, secondary line is intact all the way to the core housing. If I tap my suit's auxiliary cell and run a shielded bridge, you'll have thermal regulation and enough charge to keep your monitoring system active. Power your propulsion or your shields, but you'll be warm and your biometrics will transmit to any rescue transponder in range. And your suit, I'll be cold. I've been cold before." She was silent for a long moment. The amber fault lights pulsed. Somewhere deep in the station's hull, a sexy strut groaned under the thermal stress of the cooling outer skin. "Why?" she asked. Not challenging, genuine. I looked at her. She had copper-bronze skin with the faint geometric undertones her species developed in high-altitude atmospheres. A pattern so subtle it only caught the light at certain angles, like the grain in old timber. Her hair was dark, almost burgundy in the medbay's amber glow, cropped close on the sides and longer across the crown, and there was a med patch behind her left ear from where they had addressed the orbital fracture. She looked like what she was, a queen who had been hurt, who had been abandoned by people sworn to protect her, and who was still lying there with her spine straight and her eyes clear. I said, "Because they were wrong about you." She waited. "Everyone I heard talking on this station for the last 2 days, the escort, the diplomatic liaisons, 2 staff officers who came through yesterday. They talked about you like you were cargo, Like this whole transit was about the compact strategic posture, the fuel corridor negotiations, the seat on the outer council, like you were a piece on a board. I turned back to the rack and began disconnecting my auxiliary cell coupling. You asked the medtech her name on the first day. You learned it. You asked her about her family. You noticed when the junior rating on the evening rotation hadn't eaten, and you asked me to make sure she got something from the galley. I paused. Doesn't do that. The silence stretched. Then she said very quietly, her name was Enna, the medtech. I know, you told me. I could hear what that cost her. Not weakness, but the specific grief of someone who has learned to hold people at distance and fines, against her own careful architecture, that she has not. That she has been paying attention to every name in every room, even the rooms where no one was watching, even the rooms where it earned her nothing. I finished disconnecting the cell. I built the bridge carefully, testing the conduit seal at every junction, keeping the draw at 38%. When I activated the transfer, suit's thermal layer came back online with a soft tone. The monitoring system handshook with the station's emergency transponder. Biometric feed appeared on the wall panel. Pulse, respiration, core temperature, all stabilizing as the suit began its work. She let out a breath that she had been holding for a while. Better, I said. Yes, a pause, thank you. I pulled a thermal foil from the supply rack and draped it over my own shoulders. Not warm, but it would slow the heat loss. Pulled the second chair in the room to the near side of her platform, and sat down, not hovering, just present, close enough that she didn't have to raise her voice. You should, I said. 4 hours, I'll watch the transponder. I don't generally sleep when I'm waiting to see whether I survive. Neither do I, but one of us should try. She almost smiled. I saw the edge of it, a small, wry thing at the corner of her mouth surprised out of her. We waited. At 0712, the transponder returned a ping. Not Varec, but a compact fast courier on a lateral approach vector. 40 minutes out. At 749, they docked. The courier's senior officer came through the airlock at a run, 2 medics behind her, and pulled up short when she saw me sitting beside the platform in a thermal foil with frost on my sleeves. And Queen Vareth sitting upright, armor partially on, color in her face, eyes clear. The officer looked at her, then at me, then at the bridge cable running from my suit's chassis to the Queen's thermal layer. Who are you? She asked me. Before I could answer, Vareth said, he is under my protection. Her voice carried the particular flatness of someone stating a thing that is no longer open for discussion. See to it that his contract is amended accordingly before we reach the compact. His name is Davin Orel. You will remember it. The officer blinked. Then she nodded sharply, once. They helped the Queen to her feet. She stood without assistance, slowly, carefully, but on her own terms. Then she turned and looked at me directly. The way she had looked at me from the diagnostic platform in the dark, when she was weighing what I was worth. Davin, she said, ma'am, you will walk out of this station with me. It was not a question. It was not an order, exactly. It was something older and quieter than either. The kind of thing that settles between two people who have been cold, together in the dark, and come out the other side of it. I stood, gathered the thermal foil, and followed her out. The corridor was brighter now, courier's emergency lighting filling in where the stations had failed. I phalanxed at her left side. Not ahead, not behind. Even. She did not say anything further, neither did I. But her hand, as we moved toward the airlock, brushed once against my arm. Just once. A quiet, deliberate thing, seen by no one. I felt it the whole way home.